At family picnic, my sister clinked her glass and said, "To the one who always shows up, broke, desperate, and still trying to matter." My parents laughed. I lifted my drink and said, "To the desperate one who just closed the account funding your rent." The silence after that toast was beautiful, and then I was already regretting going to the picnic when I saw my sister unloading a designer cooler from the back of her boyfriend's car. The thing probably cost more than the entire monthly grocery bill for a normal family. But there she was, smiling like a lifestyle influencer, setting it next to a hand-woven picnic basket and a monogram blanket. My mom waved me over without enthusiasm. My dad gave me that same distracted nod he always used when pretending I hadn't just walked in. I placed my plastic grocery bag on the corner of the table. Inside was a bag of off-brand chips and 2 cans of soda. I didn't even try to pretend I cared. The rest of the family was already there. My cousin Rebecca, who never pays for anything, but somehow always has her nails done. And my Aunt Joanne, who thinks my name is short for mistake. The whole thing rare of that performative warmth that families like ours do when they want to look united in public but secretly can't stand each other. I was the only one who didn't bother hiding it. I sat through 2 hours of passive-aggressive jokes. They teased me for being single, for not dressing up, for not smiling more. My mom made some comment about how some of us know how to grow up. And my dad chuckled like he understood the punchline. I let it all slide. That was always the game. They mock, I ignore, and the world keeps turning. But then my sister decided she needed a moment. She raised her overpriced glass of wine and called for everyone's attention. Everyone got quiet because they knew she loved to toast like we were at a wedding. Here's to the one who always shows up, broke, discouraged, but still trying to be important. They all laughed. Even my mom. Even my dad. I didn't. I picked up my cheap plastic cup with flat soda, held it up just like she did, and said to the desperate man who just closed the account he was paying your rent from. No one laughed. In fact, for the first time in years, I had their full attention. You could hear a kid crying in the distance. A bird somewhere flapped away. I watched my sister's smile fall like a dropped plate. My mom's eyes darted toward my dad, who was staring at his cup like maybe he could hide inside it. I didn't explain. I didn't flinch. I just finished my drink, wiped my hands, and stood up. I'll be heading out. No one said a word. They didn't ask where I was going or if I was okay. That was the magic of that family. I had just flipped their entire world on its head, and they were still trying to pretend it wasn't happening. 8 days later, my phone buzzed. "Hey, rent's due. Can you send the usual $1,200? I didn't even respond at first. I let it sit there while I went out for a walk, bought myself lunch, read a book, took a nap. Then hours later, I finally replied, "No." She tried to call. I let it ring out. Then the text came. "What do you mean no? Are you serious? You can't just stop. It's hard right now. Ethan's been looking for work. I'm already behind." I told her to move in with our parents. They had space. She called that ridiculous and said I was being vindictive. I told her it was time for her and Ethan to grow up and live within their means. That didn't sit well, so she called our parents. The next day, I got a long voicemail from my mom. She tried to sound calm, but I could tell she was furious. She said we were family, that we help each other, that I was blowing things out of proportion. I texted her back. "If you're that worried, you can help her, but don't ask me to keep paying for people who treat me like trash." An hour later, my dad called. "So, you're cutting her off? For real?" I told him, yes. And by the way, he might want to get the mortgage in order too, because I wouldn't be paying their $3,400 next month either. Silence, then laughter. The kind of laughter that says, "You don't really believe what you're hearing. You wouldn't dare." But I did. I dared. And for the first time in my life, I enjoyed watching the world tilt back in my direction. They thought I was bluffing. That's the part that made it funnier, like I hadn't just been paying their bills for nearly a year while they acted like it was owed to them. My mom called me again 2 days later, this time pretending she wanted to check in on me. I ignored it. Then she sent a photo of our dog from 10 years ago, probably hoping to soften me up. I didn't reply. The next rent day came and went. My sister sent a string of texts, each one more dramatic than the last. Mason, I'm getting eviction warnings. You can't just cut me off. This isn't just hurting me, it's hurting Ethan, too. You said you'd help until we got stable. I finally answered. You've had 7 months. That's enough time to get stable. Or at least move somewhere you can actually afford. She tried to guilt me, said I was heartless, said she was crying. Then she said something that made me pause. I might have to break my lease. We'll have to move back in with Mom and Dad. I replied instantly. Perfect. That's exactly what I suggested. Sounds responsible. She didn't answer after that. But I knew what she was really afraid of. It wasn't the moving, it was the shame. My sister had spent years building this image of herself as successful and put together. Living with our parents again would tear that down. And even worse, it would mean I was right. Later that night, I got a call from my dad. We just spoke to your sister. She told us about the rent. What's going on with you? I told him what was going on. I was done. He said something about disrupting the balance in the family. I asked him what balance he was talking about. The part where I work 70-hour weeks and they make fun of me between bank transfers. Then he said the mortgage was due in a few days and if I was really going to leave them in the lurch. He expected at least some warning. I reminded him that I gave my warning at the picnic. He didn't think I was serious. Well, I am. He hung up on me. That weekend, I got a text from my mom. You don't understand how hard things are. We've been counting on you. We thought we were a team. I wrote back. You didn't treat me like part of a team. You treated me like an ATM with anxiety. No response. The next few days were quiet. Then my sister posted a photo online of her and Ethan packing boxes. The caption said, "New beginnings." But I could tell it was eating her alive. She'd gone from a modern apartment downtown to moving back into her teenage bedroom, and things only got worse from there. By the end of the second week, my mom called again. This time, she didn't bother pretending to be calm. So, you're seriously cutting us off too? I said, yes. You wouldn't dare. I already did. 3 months. That's how long I'd been paying their mortgage. $3,400 a month. I was covering it so they wouldn't have to downsize or move to a cheaper neighborhood. I was doing it quietly without a thank you because they told me it was just until your father gets his pension sorted. That was 4 months ago. So I stopped. No more transfers. No more middle-of-the-night bank alerts. Nothing. A week after that, I heard from a cousin that the house was officially in pre-foreclosure. Apparently, my parents never told anyone I was paying it. They let the family believe they were just managing things fine. Now everyone knew. The irony was incredible. When I was helping them, it was invisible. But when I stopped, suddenly I was the villain. They all started turning on each other. My sister blamed my parents for relying on me. My parents blamed her for dragging me into her drama. My mom told my dad it was his fault for thinking I'd always be the fixer. And somewhere in all of it, I realized something. Without me, they couldn't function. And when I was helping, they acted like it was the natural order of things. But now, they were finally forced to look at what they were without the money I earned. And it wasn't pretty. By the time the 4th week hit, my sister was back at our parents' house. And you'd think that would humble her. Didn't. She acted like she was doing them a favor by showing up. From what I heard, she and my mom were at each other's throats by day 2. And my dad was quietly researching noise-canceling headphones. Ethan didn't last long. He packed up and left after a few days, muttering something about space. And not being able to think in this house. He'd gone from playing Xbox in a city apartment to sharing a bathroom with my mom's 3,000 decorative towels. I didn't blame him. But the best part, no one blamed me yet. They still thought I might cave. The text started again. I just need a little help getting back on my feet. You know, I'm looking for jobs. Ethan's staying with friends, but he's trying too. Please, Mason. I can't stay here forever. No, I didn't even say it with emotion. Just the word. No. She tried guilt. Said she'd have a breakdown. That I was punishing her for being younger. That I never cared about family anyway. Then my mom stepped in. She invited me over for dinner. Said it wasn't about money. Just wanted to catch up. I already knew it was bait, but I accepted. I wanted to see how bad it had gotten. When I walked in, I could feel it instantly. The house was quieter, colder. It wasn't a warm family dinner setup. It felt like a truce meeting between countries that had already gone to war. My sister didn't even come downstairs. The dining table had bills spread across one end and 2 reheated lasagna trays sitting at the other. My mom smiled too tightly. My dad looked like he hadn't slept properly in days. We made small talk. They asked how work was going. I gave short answers. Then my mom leaned in a bit and said it. We're in a tough spot right now. Just for a little while if you could help again. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get emotional. I just laid it out. You mocked me when I struggled. You made jokes about me being always trying to be important. I was paying for your house, her apartment, your lives. And you acted like I owed it, like it was the natural order of things. You never asked how I was doing, never said thanks. You just assumed I'd keep going. My dad tried to say something about how family helps each other. I shut him down. Exactly. Family helps each other. I helped you and you spat in my face every time you could. My mom sat in silence. My dad looked away. That moment should have been awkward, but I felt calm. Then I said this. I'm hosting a picnic. Just us. 1 month from now, I'll tell you what I've decided, whether I'll help again, whether this continues or ends for good. My mom nodded like she understood. My dad didn't say anything, and I left before dessert. On the way home, I stopped for a burger, sat in my car, and just breathed. It was the first time in a long time I didn't feel like someone's crutch. The first time I didn't feel guilty for saying no. And the best part, they were finally starting to realize that I wasn't bluffing. The month crawled by slower than I expected. At first, I figured the silence meant they were planning something. Maybe another manipulation. Maybe just waiting me out. But nothing came. No texts, no missed calls. Not even one of my mom's classic pity comments on old Facebook photos. Like, you used to smile more back then. I almost started thinking they were genuinely trying to move on. Then I got a call from Jeremy, my cousin, who somehow always knew when drama was brewing. Hey man, just checking in. You coming to that little family thing you planned? I didn't tell him it wasn't a family thing. I told him yes. Then the next day, I got a message from an old neighbor. Hey, your mom dropped by, said you were hosting something. She asked if you still had that promotion at work. She seemed curious. There it was, the build-up. They were spreading it around like I was hosting some kind of redemption tour, and I already knew what they were hoping for. I'd walk in with a speech, apologize for being harsh, then offer to cover everyone's mistakes again, maybe even hand out envelopes. That's how they saw it. So, I decided to do the one thing they never expected. Turn the picnic into a job fair. I spent the next week calling in favors. I reached out to my sister's old manager, who still remembered her flaking on shifts. He didn't want to hire her again, but he knew a clinic across town desperate for a part-time assistant. I called one of my dad's former coworkers who ran inventory for a construction supplier. Turns out they needed someone reliable for managing equipment. I even got in touch with a friend who worked at a community kitchen where my mom used to volunteer before she started saying she was too busy to be seen there anymore. By the time picnic day arrived, I had a folder of opportunities tailored to each of them. They showed up overdressed like they were headed to a televised family reunion. My sister wore a floral dress that probably came from the last of her savings. My mom brought a kitsch. My dad wore sunglasses even though it was mostly cloudy. They were smiling, wide, rehearsed smiles. The kind that meant one thing. He's going to fold. We sat at a lonely table in a public park. Just 5 of us. There was no music, no tablecloths, just plain sandwiches and water bottles. I brought myself. I didn't even bother with chairs for everyone. I brought one for me. Let them figure it out. After some surface-level small talk, they stared at me like I owed them a performance. And I gave them one, just not the one they wanted. I took out a folder and handed them each a paper. My sister looked at hers and laughed, thinking I was joking. What is this? A job interview. They're expecting your call. She blinked. My mom asked if this was a joke. My dad just stared. I handed my mom an application for a nonprofit kitchen that needed help with food prep and events. She used to do that kind of thing years ago before she decided it was beneath her. I gave my dad a printed offer from a guy who needed a reliable inventory manager. Flexible hours, decent pay, nothing glamorous but steady. And then I gave my sister 3 listings, part-time at a local clinic, a call center opening, and a position as a receptionist at a dental office downtown. They didn't say anything at first. Then came the explosion. My sister stood up and shouted that this was cruel, that I was setting her up to fail by pushing her into jobs she didn't want. My mom called me condescending, said I was treating them like they were my employees. My dad accused me of trying to humiliate them. I let them finish. Then I said it. You asked for help. This is help. That didn't go over well. They packed up. The kitsch went back in the cooler. The smiles turned into glares and they left. All of them. And there I was, sitting alone at a picnic table with untouched sandwiches and a folder of printed job offers. But I didn't feel alone. I felt awake. For the first time in years, I had drawn a line they couldn't erase. I wasn't cutting them off because I was angry. I was cutting them off because I was finally done apologizing for not being broken enough to be loved by them. Then 3 days later, something happened I never saw coming. The clinic called me. They wanted to thank me for referring my friend to their open position. Apparently, my sister had shown up for the interview. Not only that, she took the job. When the clinic called, I almost didn't recognize the number. I answered out of habit, expecting spam or a wrong number. Instead, it was the woman I'd spoken to a week earlier about the assistant position. Just wanted to thank you for referring Madison. She interviewed Monday, started today. So far so good. I sat there in silence for a second. Madison took the job. I didn't expect that. I thought she tossed the papers in the trash the second she got home. Maybe yell about me in group chats for a week. But she actually followed through. That meant one of 2 things. Either she'd hit true rock bottom or something had shifted. Either way, I was intrigued. I didn't reach out to her. I didn't congratulate her. I just waited. For days later, I got a text. Started work. It's fine. Don't get used to me thanking you. But also, I'm not quitting. So there, that was it. No hearts, no smiley faces, just facts. And that tiny spark of stubborn pride she'd always had, now doing something useful for once. I almost replied, but I didn't. A few days later, it was my dad who blinked. He called and asked if the warehouse job was still available. Said he'd given it some thought. I didn't rub it in. I just gave him the contact again and told him the guy was still looking. The following week, I heard through my cousin, the same one who called fishing for gossip, that my mom had taken the prep kitchen job, quietly without telling anyone. She was clocking hours under a different last name, probably too embarrassed to be seen working somewhere she used to look down on. And me, I didn't do anything. I watched. I worked. I lived. They were struggling, sure, but they were finally owning their struggle. And the best part, they stopped asking for money because deep down they knew I meant it when I said I was done. A full month passed. That's when I decided to send one final message in the family group chat. I hadn't used it in almost a year. It still had that awful group name my mom picked. Fam bam 2 hearts. I typed. Since it's been a while, I'm hosting a follow-up picnic. Same spot this Saturday. Come if you want. No one replied, but they showed up. My sister came and scrubbed straight from work. My dad looked like he'd been moving boxes all morning. My mom wore a plain windbreaker and zero jewelry. No makeup, no kitsch, no fanfare. We sat. I didn't make them wait this time. I told them I wasn't going back to paying their bills. That just because I earned more didn't mean I owed more. That love isn't measured by how many direct deposits you make for someone who refuses to stand on their own feet. They sat in silence, not angry this time, just tired, maybe even thoughtful. And when they left, no one yelled. No one blamed me. No one tried to negotiate, because this time they knew I meant every word. The days after the second picnic were quiet. Not the hostile kind, but the kind that happens when people realize there's nothing left to argue about. No more lectures, no more begging, no more pretending like we were in some kind of financial custody battle. That second picnic broke whatever weird illusion we'd all been clinging to. It didn't end with a dramatic storm off this time. They just walked away like people who finally understood the weight of their own lives. For weeks, nothing happened. I went to work, came home, cooked for myself, watched a couple documentaries I had been putting off. I didn't feel angry or bitter. I just felt steady. Then little signs started popping up. My sister posted a picture of her ID badge on Instagram. No caption, just a badge, her hand, and a public bathroom mirror. She used to post beach photos with cocktails and inspirational captions like good vibes only. This one was silent real. A few days later, my dad texted, "Got forklift certified today. My back's not thrilled, but it's good work." No sarcasm, no passive aggression, just that. I stared at the message for a while. He hadn't spoken to me like that since I was 19. The biggest surprise came from my mom. I was cleaning out my inbox late one night when I noticed an email from her. Subject line, no title. The body was 2 sentences. "I didn't realize how much we relied on you until we had to rely on ourselves. We're trying. Even if it's late, no dramatic apology, no emotional manipulation, just a straight acknowledgement." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. For the first time, it felt like she said something because she wanted to, not because she was trying to twist me back into orbit. And here's the part no one talks about. When you stop carrying people who thought it was your job, they don't just fall. They scatter, they scramble, they adapt. My sister's been working at the clinic for over a month now. Her posts are quieter, less curated. She's even started taking online classes on weekends. I heard it from a friend, not from her. She didn't send me a proud look at me text. She just did it. My dad took the inventory job. He hasn't missed a day. He still doesn't talk much, but now when he does, it sounds different, like he knows who he is again. My mom. She's been prepping food at the nonprofit kitchen for weeks. She runs donation drives on Sundays. She used to scoff at the people who needed that kind of help. Now she's shoulder to shoulder with them. And me, I'm making more money than I ever have. But the important part, I'm keeping it. Not hoarding it, just not bleeding it out for people who treated me like a safety net they could also laugh at. I started planning a solo trip, something I never felt like I could do before. I booked it last week. One-way flight. No return date yet. Sometimes I think about how weird it is that it took everything breaking for anything real to start. There was a time I believed that giving endlessly would eventually make them love me better. That if I just showed up, paid up, shut up, they'd eventually treat me like someone worth respecting. They didn't. But once the help dried up and the expectation shattered, something strange happened. They stopped being cruel. They stopped mocking me. They stopped pretending they were better because now they had to fight for what they wanted. And the most satisfying part, they're actually doing it. They're far from perfect. I'm not delusional, but they're moving, earning, surviving. And me, I'm finally free. Not just from the financial grip they had on me, but from that old belief that I had to keep sacrificing to be seen. I don't need them to see me anymore, because now they're too busy trying to see themselves. And that, in the end, is what they always needed. Not my money, not my pity, just a mirror. And the silence that comes after a fall. That's where the truth finally speaks. I wasn't planning to give another update. Honestly, I thought the story ended with them walking away and me finally living my own life. But something happened last week that felt too full circle not to mention. I was at this small coffee shop downtown reading on a Saturday morning when I heard someone call my name. I looked up and saw my sister in scrubs with a to-go cup in one hand and a bag of groceries in the other. She looked tired, but not fake tired like before. Real functional tired. She smiled awkwardly. I nodded. She sat down without asking. We didn't talk about the past. No apology, no rehashing of what was said. We just talked about work, the weather, how weird it is getting older. She mentioned Ethan once casually, like someone mentioning an old coworker. I didn't ask questions. Before she left, she paused and said quietly, "You were right. We needed it. All of it." Then she walked out and that was it. A few days later, I heard from my dad. He sent me a photo of a grill he bought with his own damn paycheck. That's what he wrote. My mom started organizing a local food drive. She emailed me a flyer, not asking for money, just asking if I'd share it. For once, they don't need me. Not the way they used to. And for once, I'm okay with being just their brother, just their son, not their bank, not their backup plan, just Mason.